Hi guys, today we're going to talk about Potter's Pink. So this is a colour that is it's become an essential in my palette, and it actually took me quite a few years to decide whether or not I'd put it there. So I guess at first I needed to find like shell pink and opera rose and other pinks that were more vibrant, more soft, and then I could come back and kind of relook at this one and see how it would work in my palette. So I saw it a lot in Liz Steele's palette. She would always mix it with pretty much everything to create shadows and create different sort of color stories. So here you can see this is the version that I have. It's the Winsor Newton version. It's the version she recommended and I really love it. And we're going to pair it with Tiger's Eye. So we're going to pair it with the Daniel Smith Tiger's Eye. I got a request about doing this for a colour spotlight, and I don't really use it enough to do a full spotlight on it, I think. So I thought this would be a nice place to kind of put it in and do a little bit of both colours together, because Potter's Pink, I guess, has a more supporting role in my palette as well. So a little bit like French ochre. When we did the French ochre spotlight, I used the French ochre for the shadow, not necessarily the main painting. I think I did mix it in the main painting, but that they're colours that do have like a more of a supporting role in your palette, and then you end up painting with them in that same way. So I thought it would be nice to sort of use them to pair them together like that. Anyway, so now we are working on the color chart. So I'll do a video at some point just of this color chart, so you can kind of see how to put one together, and I'll just walk you through the steps really simply. But we're talking about the Winsor Newton version of Potter's Pink. It's the pigment PR 233. It's a semi-opaque color. It has excellent light fastness, and it is a non-staining color, which I really love non-staining colors. It makes them really easy to lift and to work with. So it is a very heavily granulating color as well, so you'll be able to see that here in the swatches. And what we did first is the mass tone up the top, so just the color at full strength, how it looks. And then I'm doing this gradient wash. I like to do these so darker on one side going to lighter on the other side, so adding more water, and then I like to drop a little bit of water back in to the swatch there and just see how the paint reacts. And then we just put plain water on the bottom and drop a drop of the color in there, and see how that travels in the water as well. So we're going to do the color comparisons now. So this is the Potter's Pink, and then next to that I want to swatch one of my favorite colors. So this is Thulite. This version is by Colors of the Iron range. So it's not in the shop at the minute, but it's a really gorgeous color. I hope she restocks it. This has real sort of particles, real granules of paint in it. It's really gorgeous, so I absolutely love it. But if you can't get this, don't worry. The color mixes that I'm going to show you, you can create something pretty similar to that as well. So this next color that we are swatching next to it is Porphyry Violet Ochre. Again, this is from Colors of the Iron range, and this is one of my favorite colors. So these two are fairly similar in my mind. You've got sort of the more violet ochre version and the more rose ochre version, and they both play a fairly similar role in my palette. So this is another color that I wanted to compare. This is Rubies by Wallace and Seymour. So on the actual tube, it looks a lot more like the Thulite color, but when I squeezed it out, I think it's reacted with the metal a little bit, so it's gone a little bit more dull, which I don't mind. I actually really like the colour. But yeah, that's just another colour comparison. So I don't really have any other colours that are similar to it, so we're just going to jump into the colour mixing here. So the first colour that I'm mixing, and one of my favourite ways, and you can see here I'm putting it next to the Thulite so you can see how similar those colours are. So this is Potter's Pink with Shell Pink, and it makes this really gorgeous muted soft pink. Okay, so the next way will not be a surprise if you've seen any of my other videos. I really love mixing it with Sedona by Daniel Smith. So this is my favourite kind of pinky brown. I really love this brown, and it's a similar colour to a burnt sienna, but it's got a little bit more, I don't know, it's a bit prettier to me. Like, it's got a bit less yellow in it, and it's a bit more towards like a pinky brown. And so then I am going to mix it with the Buff Titanium, again by Colours of the Iron range. And then I mix it with the Artgraf, so the round tin. I'll link it below. It's the water-soluble graphite tin of Artgraf. And it makes almost a violet porphyry colour, so you can kind of mix that if you have those instead of like a violet ochre. And then I mix it with white. I love to mix everything with white. But you can see here I just mixed it with pearl white, and this is absolutely, so the pearl white and the shell pink, they're my two favourite mixes with it. And this colour with the pearl white, it makes it look like a champagne colour. It is so pretty. So the last thing we're going to mix it with is one of my other favourites, which is Rivervale Phantom Fire. So I know that if, for some of you, if you're outside the US and the shipping is too expensive, you can get, like the import duties, you can get this, what am I trying to say? The Daniel Smith Iridescent Copper or the Turner Artists Iridescent Copper. It might be a little bit cheaper. It's on sale for $6 at the minute at Jerry's Artarama, and it's a pretty similar colour. So I think the Rivervale one has a little bit more peach sort of particles in it, like a bit more shimmer, but they're pretty close. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is do a painting using this colour. So like I said, it has a supporting role in my palette, so we're going to use it in a supporting role in the painting, and we're going to pair it with Tiger's Eye, and we're going to actually paint a conch shell. So this is something I've actually wanted to paint for a long time, but I'll get into that in a second. I'm just showing you here, so I'm pulling Tiger's Eye out of my main palette. So this was a palette that I collected and curated over several years, and you can see there that some of the colours are I'm kind of running out of them, so I almost stopped using this one and I started using this smaller palette. So I fill it with colours which are more I use more often, and I just kind of use this large palette almost like an art shop. So it's if I know the colours that are in there, and if I want to go grab one, I can use them, but they're not necessarily colours that I want to just use up and then replace all the time, because I don't use them enough. So, and then I have these little supplementary palettes as well. so you can see here, like this one is a supplementary kind of shimmer palette, and it actually came as a limited edition gold palette from Schminke. So I got 6 glitter colors in there, or like pearlescent colors, and then it just sort of became that shimmer palette. I wasn't really expecting it to be like that, but I just ended up having all those colors, so that's how it ended up. And yeah, so let's get into the painting. So the first thing we're going to do is sketch it out, and it's almost the hardest thing all the time for me is just doing the sketching. And you know, I recommend that you look at the shapes, look up all sorts of different shapes of the thing that you are trying to create, and you're kind of trying to look for similar main shapes, like so you can see here this one I am doing sort of the top triangular part first, and then I'm coming around the sides with the more round shapes, but they are almost not pleats, but there's sort of some curvature in them and some steps, small steps through the curves, so I am trying to put that in as well. So once that's done, I'm going back and I'm kind of putting in, they're almost like little garlands, so it's not straight across the shell. We're trying to create a little bit of movement and a bit of the 3D shape here, so I am trying to sort of do them like a garland of fairy lights a little bit. And then here I'm just putting some vertical lines in to indicate where these kind of pleats or, you know, different parts of the shell come in there. So again, like I'm just going through and doing sort of small sketches to kind of show me where I want to paint. So you can see I'm holding the pencil very lightly. I'm just doing small light pencil marks, so it's not, there's nothing heavy there. I can easily erase it if I need to, and it's also not hurting my hand to hold the pencil, like I'm not holding it very tightly or anything like that. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is just start work on the inside of the shell. So we are using shell pink here, and you can see there that I am doing a wet in wet technique. So I put water down on the page to begin with. I actually watched a video the other day, and this lady just dumped all this water off her paper. It was quite amazing. But here you can see I got a question about shell pink and like the oranges, and this is Pyrrole Orange and Organic Vermilion from Daniel Smith, and you can see when you put white with it, it becomes really beautiful, like a shell pink. But you could see there on the right, that was Holbein Orange and Holbein Vermilion, and they just don't have that same kind of pretty hue as the Daniel Smith Pyrrole Orange and the Daniel Smith Organic Vermilion, and that's why I really love them. When you make them with white or pearl white, they become like a shell pink, so you sort of get 2 colours in one there, so I really love them for that. Okay, so now we are using Daniel Smith French Ochre, and again doing the wet and wet technique. So I've put water down on the page, and I am just going back in with the colour. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you a try that I did of this several years ago when I was first starting painting, and it's pretty bad. So it was my first effort. I haven't even attempted it again since then. So this one has a long way to go, but it's come a long way since there. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting what am I putting in? Tiger's Eye, and you can see that I'm pulling it in the direction that I want it to settle. So I know that it's going to bleed out a little bit, but I want to start it on the page in the way that I want it to go. And I'm still putting these dots in of the Tiger's Eye again while it's wet, so I want them to bleed out a little bit and look, you know, and create some of those different grains and textures on the shell. So I'm just going to let you watch the rest of this, and then I'll come back at the end and kind of talk about it. So the colours that I'm using are Daniel Smith Hematite, Daniel Smith Tiger's Eye, Daniel Smith French Ochre, Winsor Newton Potters Pink, and Holbein Shell Pink. And then we will come back at the end and talk about it. Okay, so we are pretty much done here. I think that you could kind of work on a painting like this for a week or a month. So this was done in pretty much just over an hour, so I let it dry in the middle there. I've added a few more layers, and again you could go back in and add more layers and more highlights and things like that. So but for these colour spotlight paintings, that's about where I want them to kind of be. So it's me kind of practicing and showing you a few techniques for around an hour or so, which and that's not including the kind of the first part where we do all the colour mixing and everything like that. So because I just want you to know that if you are kind of attempting this, it will take a little bit of time. So if you have kind of set aside like 10 or 15 minutes and it didn't work out the way you want, it's just a matter of not having enough time to finish it properly. So that's all that is, so don't panic about it. Okay, so you can see all the gorgeous granulation and the textures that this tiger's eye and the Potter's pink create. So I'm just showing you here some swatches of like the hematite, the tiger's eye, and the other browns, so you can kind of get an idea there. And I actually had used, so in the beginning I thought that goethite would be my go-to sort of ochre, but I realized French ochre for me was a little bit more versatile because I can add the hematite if I want that added grain, but I can also like mix it with yellow or other things to create different textures. So here you can see this is one of my old journals, and this is just one that I made, and I have done like several things in here, like trying out dip pens. This is when I kind of started getting into dip pens and sketching like these architectural shapes and things like that, and started getting into watercolor. So these I think were actually done with a Prima watercolor set. And then here you can see this was my first attempt at a conch shell. So you know, don't panic if it doesn't turn out the way that you want the first time. But what is interesting is you can see I'm using the same kind of colour palette here. So these I think were Neocolor 2s and a few of the same browns, and then this is Tiger's Eye. Again, I've used some Neocolor 2s to create those soft pinks and the peaches, and I was using them off a palette, like I'll link the video below with the palette I was using. And then this is the Tiger's Eye and the hematite. So this is a scene from Central Park in New York. It's Bethesda Terrace stairs, and you can see how beautiful the colors worked here. So I actually did this kind of thinking that I would talk myself out of Tiger's Eye, and I always lamented that I wanted to get burnt Tiger's Eye instead. And I've actually kind of, I think doing this video, I've talked myself back into Tiger's Eye. So I just really love the way that it creates these beautiful textures. So that is pretty much all for today, guys. I am going to show you here, you can see I've used some of the same colours here. I actually, so in the beginning I was tossing up between burnt Tiger's Eye, but I got the environmentally friendly brown iron oxide instead. And yeah, you can see I used them there in conjunction. We used to have raccoons that would come and we would feed them out the bottom of our house when we lived at our last house. So yeah, I just used them there, but I'm just kind of showing you here. So the Tiger's Eye is on top, the burnt Tiger's Eye is on the bottom, and then I kind of show you with the brown iron oxide there up in the top right as well. So you can see they're pretty similar, the burnt Tiger's Eye and the brown iron oxide. And then here's just a few other browns that I was looking at the time as well. So anyway, guys, I hope this finds you well, and I will see you soon. Bye.